Join me in a word of prayer. May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. When we used to live in Dubuque, Iowa, we would go to the lock and dam there and watch the mighty Mississippi River flow over the dam. It's an incredible sight. There's eagles flying above it and all that. It's just amazing. Carol's folks would come visit us in Dubuque once in a while, and we would take them, of course, to the lock and dam because it's an amazing sight. And her dad, who was a farmer in southern Colorado, kind of an arid region, where they had to irrigate the crops all the time from water that came from the mountains. He looked at all that water and he said, 1 minute. I just want 1 minute of that flow of that river. I would not need water for an entire season. It just flows. It's just amazing. When the kids were really young, I told them, at night they turn it off. Or run out, just like a faucet at home. You don't need it to run, you turn it off. And then in the morning you turn it back on again. So, and they believed it, because come on, it does make sense, doesn't it? Nobody's there at night. Why not turn it off? You don't want to run out of it. They did catch on. But it's an amazing thing. You look at that Mississippi River and you say, it'll never run out. There'll always be water flowing. We have this story today of the woman who comes to the well, and Jesus offers her living water so that she will never be thirsty again. How is that possible? What is that living water? There are times, when it's really good to have a glass of water. In the summertime, after mowing the lawn, you come inside. You don't want cold water, you just want cool water. 1 ice cube water. You drink that water, and it's as refreshing as it can possibly be. You're refreshed, you can go again, you rejoice, you're refilled for more work. But never to be thirsty again, what would that be like? Thirsty. What are we thirsty for? I know one thing I'm thirsty for. End of winter. Anybody else thirsty for the end of winter? Anybody else thirsty for the end of sub-zero mornings? Thirsty for not having to wonder if your car is going to start? Thirsty for not wondering, well, what do I do with my kids today because there's no school again today? Huh? Anybody else thirsty for the end of winter? All of us are, I bet. What else might you be thirsty for? The end of war? That sure would be nice. Just bring our troops home. Every day we worry about where they're doing and what they're doing and how they're being. We're thirsty for their welfare. We just want them home. Anybody else thirsty? How about health? Anybody have some sicknesses going on, some surgeries going on? I think, boy, I remember when I was healthy, I didn't even think about it, but now I'm not healthy. I'm thirsty to be healthy again. It'd be so great to be healthy again. How about thirstiness for a broken relationship that somehow it might be healed and unbroken? How about thirsty for can I just go to school one day and not have somebody bully me? I would rejoice at that. How about thirsty about going to social media, Facebook and Twitter, and thinking, I want to go to Facebook, I want to see the social media, and could today be one of those days when nobody makes awful comments about me? I'm thirsty for that day. Come right down to it, I bet there's an awful lot of things that we are thirsty for. A lot of renewal in our lives that we would like to see. A lot of being refreshed again and renewed again. And so if somebody were to offer us living water that would actually refresh us and restore us, would we take it? You bet we would. Just how do we get this living water? In the story of Jesus and the woman at the well, it's just a great story for those of us who are thirsty. See, in the story, Jesus just shatters everything, tears down all the barriers, opens up all the doors so the living water can just rush on through. Jesus at the well, the woman comes to draw water. It's a daily routine, just a daily routine. Jesus asks her for a drink of water. He doesn't have a bucket. He doesn't have anything to hold water in. So he just asks her, but she's Samaritan and he's a Jew. They're not supposed to be talking to each other. They don't really like each other. And doesn't Jesus know this? So what's he doing asking her for water? What's he doing talking to her at all? See, she brings this up. I'm Samaritan. You're Jew. What are you doing? I'm a woman here. What are you doing? You don't ask me for water. I won't go into the history of Samaritans and Jews too much, just to say, they're cousins. They're distant cousins. They have the same relationships of Abraham and Sarah and David and all the rest. They're kind of related in that way. They just had a falling out a long, long time ago. They share a long history and a long feud that has lasted for generations. So simply asking for a cup of water, that's going to heal all this? What is this living water? Will it quench the thirst of broken relationships and reconciliation between two people that has gone on for generations? Will it drown the power and overwhelm the power of separation with the power and the gift and the presence of God's love? Is it really that way? Anybody with that kind of thirst here? Put aside the conflicts in the Middle East that have been going on forever. Put aside the conflicts between rich and poor in our own country. Put aside the conflicts of politics. They don't even talk to each other. Put aside the division of black and white that still is rampant in our country. How about just having a thirst within our families of healing and renewal of a broken relationship? Can the power of Jesus as a living water do this healing? Cleanse us of all that is broken and make us well again. The woman and Jesus continue to have a conversation. She wants some of this living water. It sounds really good. She's not real sure what it is exactly. Jesus doesn't have a bucket. He doesn't have a container. He doesn't really have any water. But she really wants it. She doesn't know what it's about. So she asks for some. And Jesus says, well, go get your husband and come on back. We'll talk. She must have thought to herself, how do I answer this? Do I really be truthful? I don't know. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. I'll never see him again. I could just make something up. What shall I do? I'll tell him something about the truth, but not all the truth. We all do it, don't we? Don't we all do it? When somebody asks us how we are, don't we say, oh, I'm just great. How are you? Go on social media, right? Go on Facebook, go on Twitter, and what do you see? You see a lot of people, smiling faces, or having dinner at a restaurant, or having a good time. And that's what's on Facebook. Look at all the cool things I'm doing. Oh my life is so wonderful. You hardly ever see anything on Facebook saying, after the party I went home, alone again, wondering what my life was all about. No, you don't see that stuff on Facebook. We don't want people to know those things. At a conference when I was at St. Paul, one of the speakers said, what we yearn for as human beings is that we want to live in a community of people who care for us and love us. And then he said, the one thing we are terrified of is that we might live in a community where people love us and care for us. Jesus knows well this woman at the well. He says, you're correct. You don't have a husband. You've had 5 husbands, and the man you are with now is not your husband. How do you say that? How do you think he said that? Do you think he said, you're correct. You don't have a husband. You have 5 of them for crying out loud. The one you have now is not your husband. Say it like that? Or do you say, oh, you poor dear, man, you don't have a husband. Oh, you did have 5 of them, but the one you now don't have one. Or did he just say, you're correct. You had 5 husbands. The one you're with now is not your husband. We throw tons of judgment stuff on that one. I bet you've heard a lot of sermons of judgment on that one. Wow, there's a fallen woman and all that. It's not in the story. It's not there. All Jesus is doing is saying, this is who you are. I know you. And guess what? I still give you living water, We can still be community together. And I am the one who is the living water. We want community, and yet we're afraid of community. We want people to know us, and yet if they really knew us, well, they wouldn't want to be in community with us anymore, we're afraid. Living water is what Jesus offers. Water that will quench all those thirsts. We can come to God with anything and everything. For God already knows everything there is to know about us. And we can just come to God and God will say, okay, I hear you. I have some living water for you. I have some healing for all your ills. After all, I did send my Son so you would not perish, but so that you would have eternal life. It's in the telling that the healing really begins. That's part of the power of every 12-step program that there is. The telling of our story. The opening of our hurts, our wants, our desires, our hopes, our dreams, our fears. It's one thing that God already knows all this stuff. It's a total other thing when we open ourselves up to God and say, this is who I am. When we do that, the barriers come crashing down and the living water comes pouring in. So Jesus has just wiped out another barrier, right? Between this woman, right, and him. So what do you think? What do you think her reaction was when he said, yeah, I know all about you? Was she shocked? Was she stunned? Was she relieved? That, wow, he knows me. Was she thankful? Was she wondering if this could possibly be true? She's trying to process all this, and she did the same thing we would all do as we're trying to process something brand new and that we didn't know expected to expect. She goes back to something she's really familiar with. So she says, so, where are we supposed to worship? Are we supposed to worship in Samaria, or are we supposed to worship in the Temple of Jerusalem? She knows this one. Let's get to an argument. I don't know what you're talking about, living water. It scares me out to death. So let's talk about something we know really well. Jesus says, in effect, you know, everybody thinks they're right. They all think they have the right view of what's going on. Or they worship is the right place, and the other place that people are worshiping the wrong place. They all think they got it right. But guess what? It doesn't really matter a whole lot to anything. Because you don't worship a building, you worship a God. A building is not going to give you living water. You can't have a relationship with a building, or a mountain, or anything else. You can only have a relationship with the one who gives you living water. You're going to worship in spirit and truth. Another barrier gone, just like that. He lets her know that he can do this for her, and with her, and through her. This living water is real, so she runs back to her village. Guess what? She's not taking a bucket of water. She came up there to get water. She never does get the water. But she runs back to tell him, I think I found him. I think I found the one who might be the Messiah. He knows everything about me. Meanwhile, the disciples show up. The disciples show up, and it's pretty cool. I like the disciples. I kind of understand the woman at the well, but I really know the disciples. They show up, you know, and they got food. They went to the village to get food. So they're trying to offer Jesus some food, and he says, don't worry about it, I've already got food. And they're like, huh? How do you get food? You didn't have food before. How do you get food? Then the woman shows up, and he's talking to the woman. It's like, what are you doing talking to this woman for? What's going on? Why are you talking to her? What's going on? The disciples. If there's anybody who should get Jesus, it's the disciples. They saw him turn water into wine. They've seen him do all sorts of things. They've heard him all sorts of places. They should say, oh yeah, that's Jesus. That's what he does. He breaks down barriers. He opens up the doors. He does all sorts of crazy, wonderful things. Here he is doing something crazy and wonderful again. But that's not the disciples. They're wondering, what's going on? I get the disciples. Because we're supposed to know Jesus. We're supposed to tell Jesus everything about our lives, all of our secrets, all of our pains, all of our wants, all of our hopes, all of our dreams, all of our deep sorrows. We're supposed to be like an open book for Jesus, but guess what? I still like to be in control. You know? I like to make the decisions for myself. I like to be in charge of my own destiny. I don't really want God in charge of all that. I'm kind of afraid if God ever does get in charge of all that. I'm like the disciples. I should know what's going on. I do, but I don't follow it all the time. I don't know if you noticed, but we have a water feature over here. I brought this in just to show that, this water is always flowing. The living water of Christ is always flowing. We need to remember every single day, I need to remember every single day that I've been baptized. And in our baptism, Jesus says to us, God says to us, guess what? I love you. And guess what? You're my son. You're my daughter. And guess what? I am pleased as punch for you. To which I say, oh God, wait a second. You don't know me that well. Wait a second, God. If you really knew me, you wouldn't be so pleased with me. You know, I don't do everything quite right. God says, I know about you. But I'm still pleased with you, and I love you, and I call you my child. That's our identity. We are the woman at the well. And God and Jesus will meet us at every single well of our lives. And God and Jesus will say, I can give you living water. And when we let the barriers of our lives crumble down, when we let the walls of our, no, this is who I'm supposed to be, not the real me, don't want to see the real me, when we let that go away, the rushing waters of the living water of God's love and grace will come pouring in, drowning us and lifting us up. And we have another chance to be the people that God desires us to be. Every single day. Remember your baptism. Every single day. Thank God for the living water. Every single day. Come to Jesus and say, my vessel is empty. Would you fill it again? And Jesus will say, of course. Of course.